Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. The big lie of the presidential campaign. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Apparently, millions of American voters believe the federal government should be required by law to provide things for the folks. Education, health care, good jobs, financial security in old age, on and on. That belief runs counter to how America was established in the late 18th century when our first elected officials put their game plan into effect. Basically, their vision was a limited one for government. Citizens would have basic freedoms to worship, vote, speak openly without being punished, assemble without interference, and pursue happiness within the framework of the law. It was entirely up to we the people how we'd use those freedoms. No one was forced to go into the voting booth as they are in Australia. No one was forced to believe in God as they were in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Today, the question of individual choice, the quest to succeed or fail on your own, has almost been obliterated by politicians and judges who do not respect the concept of competition and the struggle to prosper. In short, they're evolving away from how this country was established. In addition, they are deceiving you, the American people, into believing that their success and well-being, the folks' success, will be almost assured by a giant federal nanny state. That's absolutely impossible in a nation of nearly 320 million people. Politicians deceive because it's an easy way to seduce you, the voter, unhappy in some cases with your circumstance in life. When Bernie Sanders tells Americans the economic system is rigged against them, he destroys initiative. Why work hard if the big banks will harm you no matter what? If I'm failing, it's not my fault. It's the phantom billionaires that are hurting me. Sanders is correct that the feds need to stop fraud in the marketplace, but his message of wall-to-wall capitalist corruption is false and pernicious. When a guy like Rand Paul tells Americans they should be able to intoxicate themselves at will, and the public safety be damned, he gives license to behavior that has destroyed untold billions of people the world over, not to mention the message that legalized drugs sends to kids. We don't live in a vacuum in this country. The condition of others directly affects us. Just look at the drunk driving stats. When Al Sharpton and his grievance lobby assert that black Americans are oppressed by a racist system bent on hurting them, he provides an excuse for a litany of apathetic and destructive behaviors. The kid struggling in a bad school with parents who don't care needs all the encouragement leadership can give him or her, not a list of historical atrocities that can cause even more bitterness for the child. The cold fact is, very few political people are willing to address vexing problems by telling you the truth. Here's what the government really owes us: protection from foreign concerns who would harm us, protection from criminals who would harm us, a secure border whereby our immigration laws are enforced and respected, an infrastructure of mass transportation that's safe and efficient. What the U.S. airlines are doing to their passengers is a scandal, and the fact that we don't have a high-speed rail system is flat out irresponsible. The government also has an obligation to protect our constitutional rights and to protect private property. Seizing assets after an American dies is abhorrent. Many of us work hard all our lives to give our children a better situation. Finally, it is the duty of those in power to foster a system that allows every single American a truly fair shot at material and emotional success. That means schools with strong educational and disciplinary standards, subsidized benefits for the poor and infirm that are delivered responsibly, with clear guidelines. Also, protections in the workplace against companies that would violate labor laws and exploit powerless employees. That's the heart of what the government owes us. And social engineering is not part of it, nor is free education, free health care, or a free income if you choose to lay about. Hard-working people pay taxes to support the U.S. government, as well as for personal Social Security in old age, which the feds have mismanaged in the extreme. We, the people, deserve honesty and responsible spending, not wasteful programs designed to secure votes. Last week, I spoke with Donald Trump about his promise to return jobs from overseas. Mr. Trump, Senator Sanders, Secretary Clinton all say they'll punish American companies who move jobs abroad. A president could certainly make life very difficult for corporations that ship jobs out. But the truth is that many of the lost jobs pay little. And even if they do come back, it's a marginal play. The big problem is that millions of Americans are so poorly educated and personally irresponsible, they simply cannot compete in the free marketplace. So what are the power seekers going to do about that? Blank stares. When I asked Mr. Trump how he would combat a culture among some African Americans that scorns conventional behavior, he replied that job growth would take care of it.
My message is bringing jobs back to the country, and they're going to have jobs.
But how are you going to get jobs for them? Many of them are ill-educated and have tattoos on their foreheads, and you know, how are you going to, and I hate to be generalized about it, but it's true. If you look at all the educational statistics, how are you going to give jobs to people who aren't qualified for jobs?
We're going to bring jobs back. We're going to have Apple computers made in this country, not just.
But you have to have skills to make Apple computers. Yeah, and the educational systems. It's what?
We will get the skills, and we'll develop the skills.
Now, the race hustlers, who apparently have not walked the streets of poor neighborhoods lately, immediately accused me of racism. And that is why the acute problem of cultural deprivation among underclass children of all colors is never addressed. The smear merchants hammer anyone who does so. It's beyond disgraceful that powerful people look away from the real problem. Mr. Trump is noble in his intent to create jobs and train Americans to do them, but that will require more than trade deals and rhetoric. It will require a cultural change in many working class and poor precincts. If you reject the conventional road to success, education, and hard work, you'll fail in our capitalistic system, no matter what kind of outlandish promises Bernie Sanders makes. It's all about personal responsibility and motivation. And who is preaching that message? Who? The truth is that individual motivation is being destroyed by phony politicians seeking power, by promising an endless series of entitlements to a population that's moving away from achievement and into the gimme zone. Gimme, gimme, gimme. Until that deep cultural flaw is exposed, until the phonies, race hustlers, and corporate greedheads are called out, we'll continue to see big lies spouted by political deceivers and enabled by a gutless media. God help America. And that's continuing now with our top story, the big lie of the presidential campaign, that the government can provide you with a satisfying life. Joining us from Washington, Charles Krauthammer. And you say?
Well, 2 points. The more general point is you're absolutely right. The founders had this vision of a society built on individual liberty and choice, and it didn't have the sort of the oppressive nanny state that we have today. But the reason is, you know, in the 1780s and 90s, we were an agricultural society, small population. There was nothing like the conditions that we have of a vast, continental, multicultural, multiracial, urbanized society that we have the last 100 years. And the country made a fundamental choice in the 30s, that it was essentially abandoned the vision that you talked about in the Depression, where unemployment was a quarter of the population, and where competing models, fascism, Nazism, and communism, were at least appearing to succeed in Europe under the same conditions, and were offering the totalitarian temptation. FDR correctly decided that we needed a newly energetic and intrusive federal government. And that's the choice that the country made. There's no going back. I agree with you. As any conservative, the big debate between left and right for the last 100 years is, can we at least keep the behemoth in check? Can we put restrictions on the nanny state and the proliferation of entitlements, as you say? It was Margaret Thatcher who once said the reason socialism doesn't work is that at some point the socialists run out of other people's money to spend. And that's where Europe is today and where we are approaching with our $18 billion.
Listen,
trillion.
It's my contention that the politicians do not care to solve the fundamental economic problem in this country, which is some in the workforce don't have the ability to do anything. They can't do anything. They don't want to do anything, all right? For a variety of reasons. And it cuts across all races and colors and creeds. The way to do that is to revamp an educational system to demand performance in even the poorest precincts, okay? And you can do it. I did it myself. I did it in the classroom, okay? You never hear that. All you hear is a litany of excuses and false promises that guy like Bernie Sanders is making, and then when you say, how are you going to do it, he has no blanking clue. Why aren't Americans getting fed up with this?
Well, because I think it's very hard for people to come out, for example, against the teachers' unions.
Why? Why is it hard for people to come out against the teachers' union? How many more decades do we have to see this? Deterioration in public schooling.
For one reason, Bill, because they own the Democratic Party.
Okay, yeah.
Which is half of our...
Why are millions of people supporting the Democratic Party then? When is enough enough? When is enough enough?
Well, the reason they do it is for the reason you outlined. They get a lot of freebies, and also they believe that you need the state to control things. And I would argue that even you do in some of your talking points. I was surprised that in you're extolling the virtues of individual choice, and then you came out and said one of the core roles of government is to prevent you from using intoxicants. I'm not sure the founders would have agreed with you.
Well, then what about
drugs?
Why the public safety laws then? I mean, all the laws were based on protecting the public. And if you look at the absolute wreckage that intoxicated people wreak upon innocent people, and I mean it's across the board. Go to any ER on Saturday night and watch. So this is public safety. That's what the government should do. It has an obligation to do that.
We tried it. We tried it in 1919.
No. I'm not talking prohibition. I'm talking attitude. I'm talking attitude.
What do you mean attitude? I'm talking alcohol.
You can talk about alcohol all you want. I'm talking attitude, discouragement, cultural deprivation, all right? Not encouragement. I mean, Colorado is a place now where they give tours. People go there and pay thousands of dollars to get stoned. That's the kind of country we want? That's the message you're sending to your child?
Bill,
this is what recreation is?
Bill, you're missing the point. I happen to agree with you on the policy of making drugs illegal, but it is odd for you to present
No, it's not.
that
it's a public
when
safety
you
issue.
have made the case for individual choice and liberty. It's not, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that can be called individual choice. Do you want the government regulating them because in the end it can hurt you?
I want the government to send a message of personal responsibility that isn't being sent. That's what I want. Last word.
Well, there's a difference between a message and passing a law. Churches, community leaders, even people in government can urge. But with the law, the reason that government is different is because it controls the police and the IRS. It can take away your money and your liberty. And that's called coercion. And we in this country try to be very careful about how we use that power, particularly in exercising individual choice.
Charles Grattan, everybody.